Hey there! I'm in the mood for a different kind of crazy today, so let's try this thing that a viewer sent me. It's a speech that some guy called Johan gave in front of a real, actual audience, apparently, which is unbelievable to me, at least going by the few clips I've seen. Anyway, I haven't seen most of this thing, just a few clips, so it'll be a surprise for us all. But one thing I do know is that I'm not going to address every word. It has its boring bits here and there, so watch the original video if you want the full context. Take it away, Johan.
Before I start, I have one request.
Oh, alright. Well, we're going to be stuck together for a while here, so I guess I'd better oblige.
Do not believe a single word of what I'm about to say.
Sure thing, buddy. Somehow I can't see that being a big problem for me.
And that's not a joke, because we've been believing so many things that were actually lies.
No, you don't believe any lies. Come on.
So if you think that I'm an authority, then you're wrong.
Don't worry, Johan, I would never think that about you. By the way, I feel a little bit bad talking all of this shit right at the start when my audience hasn't heard anything you have to say, really, but I don't feel that bad, because they're gonna catch up soon.
There's only but one authority, and that is yourself.
Well, I know I promise not to believe anything you say, but I kind of do believe this to an extent, in the sense that it's a good idea to remain critical of what you're told, at least if it's important in any way. If someone presents an idea to you that's going to have some significant impact on your life or other people's lives if you accept it, do yourself a favor and at least check their reasoning to see if it has any gaping holes. And don't just believe everything someone says just because you respect them and they were the person that happened to say it. That's good advice, but on the other hand, it's just a fact that there are people who've spent a lot more time studying complex subjects than you have, and it's not a wise idea to just dismiss their expertise out of hand. For example, if you don't know anything about computers and a computer tech tells you it's a bad idea to delete your Windows folder to save space, you might want to pause there just for 1 second and consider what he's saying. And if you then find out that 99% of other computer techs agree with that guy, you might want to consider leaving your Windows folder alone. All I'm saying is it's probably a bad idea to lean completely in either one of these directions. You're going to run into problems if you have complete disdain for anything an authority on a subject has to say, and if you have total credulity about what they say. It's a tricky balance to get right, but I suspect you're going to get the best results somewhere in between those two extremes.
Everybody is the authority of his own truth and nobody else.
Oh god, dude. Whether you or the authorities or anyone else is right or wrong doesn't change the fact that unless we all inhabit totally separate realities, some questions actually have right and wrong answers, regardless of what we individually think about it. We don't get our own truths, we get the truth, and that's what we have to deal with. Yeah, ultimately, you are going to be responsible for the filter you put on what is and is not accepted as true by your brain. You are going to have your own set of beliefs of things you think are true, but you're not going to have your own truth. Like it or not, if two people hold contradictory beliefs and one of those beliefs matches reality, one of those people has the truth and the other one has bullshit.
So having said that, I will present my truth to you, but please do not believe a word.
But make sure you buy my book for all the information.
Everything I'm talking about now you can also find in my ebook. It's a really big one, it's 520 pages. If you're interested in it and you can read English really good, then I advise you to buy it because there's so much more to tell. I can easily talk for a whole week, and I've done it in French and in Romanian without repeating myself. So much information is there.
Just refuse to accept any of it as true. It's meant to be read as a novel, I guess.
This is not about belief. Actually, everybody who believes builds his house on sand because the house is understanding of the whole of reality.
Okay, but let's say that you actually understand reality, or at least that you have a really strong feeling that you do. You have some idea of what's true and what's not true about reality, right? Well, that's what a belief is. You have a belief about reality. I'm starting to get the impression that although you keep using that word, it doesn't mean what you think it means.
And the moment you believe in a religion, believe in a politician, believe in university science, believe in the house doctor, believe in journalists, whatever. As long as you're believing, you build your house on sand.
I think all you're actually referring to here is uncritical acceptance of claims, and that's not what belief is. Belief is just the acceptance of something as probably true. I believe I woke up this morning. Do I have a good reason to believe that? Who cares? It doesn't matter. I still believe it. I could have the best or the worst reasoning for that conclusion, but it's still my conclusion. So again, you keep on using that word, but I do not think it means what you think it means.
The moment you start to understand the truth, that means which is logic, which is factual, which you can build upon, then you've built your house on rock.
I'm sorry, Johan, but unless you actually mean that when you understand the truth, you will refuse to accept the truth as true, then that sensation that you understand the truth is the exact same as belief. You may be wrong, you may be right, you may have good reasons, you may have bad ones, you may or may not be willing to change your mind when you find further evidence. Either way, you've reached some conclusion, some belief that something is true about reality.
And that rock, to me, Rachel already said it, is holy science, the science of the whole. And some people hear holy as if it is something sacred, but to me holy, without a W and a double L, means full of holes. And holy actually fills those holes and makes it complete, makes it a wholeness.
You couldn't resist the lame pun, could you? You know, dude, even if you felt you absolutely had to descend to that level, which you didn't, you could have at least chosen a name that's not going to cause instant confusion every time you use it with people. When people hear holy science, they're going to think you mean H-O-L-Y, holy. Not just because that's already a term that's sometimes used to deride scientists and science enthusiasts, but also because W-H-O-L-L-Y, holy science, is a nonsense term because you paired an adverb with a noun. What were the other candidates? Correctly science? Usefully science? I mean, I guess this could work as a punny title for a blog, but as a name for a worldview, wouldn't it be way more effective to go with something like whole science, although that sounds kind of bad, or maybe complete science, holistic science, something like that?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Genesis, and I start with Genesis chapter 1. The story is about the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the plural S is really important. Sometimes the plural S is forgotten. For instance, in Dutch, they made a single heaven, but that's not true. There are more than one heaven. And the first sentence is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The creation by God of the heavens, plural S, and the earth. And actually the earth is one of the heavens, one of the 7 heavens.
Wouldn't that be the heavens including the earth? I mean, if we're going to be pedantic here, the 7 heavens and the earth adds up to 8.
The creation starts at day 1. And then heaven number 6 is created, because it starts from heaven 7, the highest one. That's not created because it was already there. And from the top, it creates heavens below. Okay,
so on day 1, we've got let there be light and the creation of heaven 6, which is apparently day and night. Off to a weird start.
So on day 1, heaven 6. On day 2, heaven 5.
Day 2, we've got separating the waters from the waters with a firmament and calling the firmament heaven. Not heaven 5, mind you, just heaven. Odd.
Day 3, heaven 4.
The creation of dry land and plants.
Heaven 3, and so on.
Okay, day 4, heaven 3, the sun and the moon and the stars. Day 5, heaven 2, sea creatures and birds. Day 6, heaven 1, land animals and humans. Okay, I gotta say, dude, those are some weird-ass heavens. How are fish and birds a heaven?
All the way until day 6. Day 6 is the final day of creation, and then the lowest heaven is created. And you can also refer to the lowest heaven as the hell.
Just to be clear, you were reading from the Bible, right? Like it says on the front, Holy Bible, something like that. You can find them in motel rooms. I mean, it's just that what you're saying doesn't sound an awful lot like the Bible.
And most people who are unaware of this are in the lowest heaven. They are in hell.
No, Johan. Day 6 was the creation of land animals and humans. That means we're not in hell. That means we are hell. Maybe for the bacteria that live on us, I don't know.
The church tried to scare them to say, if you don't do what we think is good, then you will go to hell, but you're already in hell. Just put on your television and you know you're in hell.
But I can't. My TV's already on. In fact, it's always on, because baby Beelzebub always demands Teletubbies. Come to think of it, you might have a point.
And these 6 layers, or actually 7 with the top 7, these are the 7 tones of the scale.
The 7 tones. Do, si, la, Oh, bottom to top? Alright, makes sense, I guess. Lowest tone at the bottom, sure. Re, mi, fa... Wait, dude, the scale starts with do. Where's do at the bottom? Why do you have an incomplete scale with the upper do from the next octave on top? Well, maybe you explain it, so go ahead, I guess.
And everything is actually the same. Holy science shows that you can take any subject, you can connect it with other subjects, and it's all the same.
Okay, sure, you can find similarity between anything if you look selectively enough and fudge a few of the details. But before I get to that, what exactly is the similarity between the solfège and the 7 heavens that aren't listed in Genesis 1?
Many people do not know that these are not just random words. They're not syllables. They have meaning.
They sure do. You know the tune, sing along.
Do, a deer, a female deer.
That's enough. I don't need a copyright strike for that shit.
Because they're abbreviations of Latin words.
Oh, right. Oops. That was totally the wrong song.
Queant laxis resonare vidris, mirage sorum fabuitorum, salve voluti nobile Beatum Sancte Johannes.
That's the 8th century hymn Ut queant laxis, or Hymn to St. John the Baptist. And as you saw, the first syllable on each line is where the solfege, the do-re-mi thing, came from, when it was invented by Guido of Arezzo in the 11th century. Now when he invented it, it didn't originally have do, and it originally only had 6 notes because there was no C. The 7th note, C, stands for Sancte Johannes from the hymn. That's Johannes with an I, not a J. And it obtained gradual acceptance after its proposal around the end of the 16th century. And as for do, you can see in the hymn that the do we have today was originally ut, which was changed to do after Giovanni Battista Doni. Don't know if I have that pronunciation right, or any of these pronunciations right, but after he suggested it in the 17th century, likely naming it after the first syllable of his own family name, or by some accounts possibly after Dominus for God. But anyway, yeah, you're absolutely right. The syllables do stand for Latin words. They stand for ut, or doni, or dominus, possibly. Resonare, no, I'm not rolling my R because fuck you. Mira, famuli, solve, labii, and Sancte Johannes.
The do is an abbreviation of dominus.
Maybe. It's not completely clear to me what Doni actually intended for that to stand for, but either way, I really have to stress that do still replaced ut at the bottom of the ascending scale before re, because the ut queant laxis line comes at the start of the hymn. You can see this directly from the numbering on the Guidonian hand that was used as a guide to the hexachord system, which the original Guidonian 6-note predecessor to the solfege was designed for. Ut comes at the start before re, it's the very first one. And unlike the modern solfege, you can't just cycle through the hexachord version. They were overlapped, not cycled. So it was unequivocally the bottom note, which means that by design, when you sing that higher do the second time around, you're starting the next octave, not ending the current one. If you choose to present it with do at the top, that's kind of a big red flag, because it shows that you're deliberately fudging things to make it seem to kinda sorta fit your holy science preconception. Which is pretty sad, because even if they did fit exactly the way that you say, that still wouldn't tell you a damn thing about anything except maybe the mindset of the people who made them that way. So even if I were to completely buy into your fudgery, it doesn't really bring you any benefit anyway. It's not in service to any underlying point that makes any sense.
And dominus means the one who's dominating. So who's dominating the whole of reality?
Guido of Arezzo and Giovanni Doni?
That's of course the creator.
Yeah.
The almighty creator.
Yes, Johan, we got it. You don't have to...
And that's our Lord.
Great.
I don't believe in our Lords, to be really clear. I know about the Lord. Yeah, I don't believe anything. So I don't believe in the Lord either. But I want to know.
You think he exists, you talk about him like he does, so you believe it. But I don't understand what your goal here is exactly. You want to know without believing? You want to know what is true without ever accepting it as true. If you managed to do that, it'd almost be impressive if it wasn't so stupid to even try. Anyway, okay, so far you've got an uncreated Heaven 7, which is just the forever existing God, so it more or less matches the Bible so far, if not necessarily the actual meaning of do in the solfege. So what's next?
Sidera means all stars. It's a Latin word for all stars. And
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on. Go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on.
yeah, we see many stars around us here, but we're not up in the sky. But the universe is actually the whole of all the stars. And actually one star is mostly a star system or a cluster of star systems, but that's a completeness of stars. So that's the level of C.
Okay, aside from the fact that C stands for Sancte Johannes, not Sidera, the Bible is pretty explicitly clear that the stars were created on day 4, not day 1. This already completely fell apart.
So we have the highest level, which is God, and then under the universe. And under the universe we find lactea, and lactea means milk, or milky. So that's our Milky Way. So Milky Way is under the level of the universe.
Okay, well, in Latin, the Milky Way was called the Via Lactea. That's actually where we get the name the Milky Way from. So, cool. Doesn't mean they knew it was a galaxy, or that they knew what a galaxy was, but at least you're right to associate Lactea with the Milky Way in a Latin context. But it fails a little bit when you remember that the La actually stands for labii, or lips, and that the creation of the Milky Way would fall under the creation of stars on day 4, not day 2.
And then we have Sol. Sol is not an abbreviation because it's a Latin word, meaning the sun. And I refer to the sun as Helios, like the Greeks did.
That's wonderful, except that, as I said, Sol stands for solve, or in this context, something like clean. And the sun, once again, is something explicitly stated by the Bible to have been created on day 4, not day 3. How are you getting the days this wrong?
So Sol is our solar system, which is a part of the Milky Way. And then we have Vata, and Vata is just the same as the English word fate. And our fate is ruled by the planets. If you know astrology, then you know that Saturn and Jupiter and Mars and so on, they are in different houses and in different star systems, and that is creating a kind of energy. And if you're sensitive to it, then you can understand that influence.
I'll just let my audience enjoy that one with no comment from me. I just don't find it necessary. But I've got to say, at least your other fake abbreviations were easily linked to their respective celestial objects, but you're starting to stretch awful hard with this one. However, you might actually be on the right day here for once, because although Genesis 1 doesn't say anything about planets, probably because its authors had no idea they existed, if I had to include them under any day, it'd be day 4 with the stars and the sun and the moon. And that's the day we're on, day 4. Perfect. But more fail, Fa is an abbreviation for famuli, or servants, not fata.
So this is our planetary system. They influence us. And then we have microcosm in English, and that's of course the world we live in. Yeah, Gaia, the planet we live on top.
Do you know what a microcosm is? Do you know what that word means? It's like a smaller piece of something that reflects the whole. It's like a mini version. Like, for example, YouTube atheism is a microcosm of atheism worldwide, right? You can see the different aspects of worldwide atheism reflected here on YouTube. Point being, how in the hell does microcosm imply Earth in any way? What, is Earth a microcosm of something? Galactic civilization? I don't know. Well, big whoop, a lot of things are microcosms of a lot of things. Although it's not like something is inherently a microcosm of something else, we just label it that way. My point is that if you're going to say one of these labels definitely has to mean one and only one thing, in this case the Earth, that label cannot be so vague that you can apply it to basically anything if you want to. Because then there's no way to justify saying that it must refer only to that one specific thing. And by the way, if you were just going to pull Latin words out of your ass to fit the abbreviations and your interpretation of Genesis, you could at least have tried to find some words whose meanings were kind of sort of similar to what you actually wanted so that you didn't have to twist them so goddamn hard to make your ideas seem even faintly plausible. Like, really, you take the Latin word for fates and you say it means planets? You take the word for microcosm and you say it means Earth? The funny thing is, I've actually seen another complete bullshit version of the meaning of the solfège around, and that other one, while it is equally stupid if you try to compare it to Genesis, is at least more compelling in that it doesn't have to handwave about why in the hell fate might mean planets and microcosm might mean Earth, and here it is. So you basically have God, and then things or matter or stuff, miracle, the family of planets, which would be the solar system, the sun, the Milky Way, and the stars. I have no idea if the grammar's any good, probably not. One thing I immediately notice is that they reversed Via Lactea to Lactea Via to force it to fit. But at least you can directly see how each one is supposed to represent what they want it to represent, which instantly makes it better than yours. So try using that one in the future. I mean, if you're gonna peddle pointless lies, you might as well peddle the best one. Never mind, doesn't matter, because the book you're butchering says the sea and the sky and the land of the earth were created on days 2 and 3, and we're currently discussing day 5, which happens to be when sea creatures and birds were made, which are considerably different from the whole planet. And me stands for Mira or wonderful, not microcosm.
And the last one is Regina, and that also means to rule.
As a prairie boy, I demand that you pronounce this Regina. I'm offended by your pronunciation on behalf of the Saskatchewanians.
So if you are at the lowest level, in the level of array,
Then you're a ruler, like man ruling over the animals or something. Yeah, the creation of man, the ruler of the animals. Or maybe you control the rulers, like the planets control the fates. One or the other, I totally get your naming scheme. This is great.
in the level of array, then you are ruled over by the government or any other people try to fool you. And if you're fooled, then you are governed.
Okay, so Regina doesn't refer to the creation of the rulers, which would at least be consistent with the naming scheme up till now. No, it refers to the state of being ruled by someone else. Which heaven are the rulers in then? And why would something as arbitrary as your status relative to another human being count as a created heaven? The other heavens were all physical things like stars and planets, but that last one is just a social construct reflecting your perceived position in society. That's quite the curveball to throw there at the end. Oh, and for the sake of completeness, this is day 6 when land animals and humans should be created, not the state of being ruled. And Re doesn't stand for Regina, it stands for resonare in the context of singing.
If you're sovereign, if you understand that nobody can rule over you, or at least doesn't have a right to do so, then you are free. But then you're already at this level.
Oh man, that would have answered my question about where the rulers live, but you didn't show the screen. Damn it, Johan!
Most people who are ruled over are at the lowest level. They are in hell.
So is this like an anarchist video, or...?
And the hell, you can say, is ruled by the moon.
I thought it was ruled by the rulers. Do the rulers live on the moon? Where are you getting this moon thing? But more importantly, is every Bible I've ever seen completely absurdly wrong in every detail? Is this the real Genesis story?
They're all lunatics, because the moon, Luna, is ruling at that level.
The moon is a big dumb rock. It doesn't... Oh, forget it.
I don't want to insult anybody, it's just I'm scientist, so I'm just describing.
Hey, Johan, you remember how you said not to believe you're an authority? Yeah, I also really don't believe you're a scientist. That's cool, right? If you said you were one of those lunatics instead, I might not be so skeptical.
Maybe you know these Petrushka dolls? Yeah? You open a doll and then, whoa, there's another one. And then you open it, oh, there's another one. And it goes on. That's just our reality. Most people live in the smallest doll. They have no idea that the world is much bigger. Yeah, they have this on their head and they only see a really small part. But the moment you open your consciousness, you come to the second level. And then you connect with the whole world, with this planet. Yeah, you understand that Gaia is our mother. And if you open further to this level, then you understand the influence of the planets. And they influence everything here.
Ah, but Johan, that's only if my truth is your truth too. What if my truth is that everything you say is the raving of the village idiot? Well, then that's true, isn't it? And so if I opened my consciousness up, I would find that the truth is that the planets really do not, in fact, control whether you win the lottery.
But you can go higher. And then you come under the sun. Yeah, you can call the sun Jesus. I will explain that later. I call the sun Helios, but you can also call it Santa Claus. It's all the same.
Yeah, Jesus, Helios, Santa, all the same.
It's just a personification for the light, the consciousness of light.
You know, I should explain something here. I don't respond to a lot of videos like this one because I don't like to feel like I'm playing ping pong. You know, weird assertion. Do you have evidence? Weirder assertion. How do you know? Weirder assertion. What makes you think that? I mean, this video in particular is okay because, at least with the do-re-mi part, I had something to work with, but statements like this one about light being conscious, or the one about astrology, what else am I supposed to say other than evidence or GTFO? Well, so be it. Evidence or GTFO?
I need some water because my throat is getting dry.
I don't believe you. Nah. Either way, though, my throat is getting dry, and also I kind of don't want to talk to you anymore right now. I might come back to this because it was a nice change of pace, but I'm done for now. But I looked ahead a little bit, and it turns out that you actually go through Genesis 1 and clarify how all the verses match up with what you just said. And man, I bet you're gonna pwn my tits off. I'm gonna feel like such a fool for mocking your amazingly insightful interpretation of the Bible here. So let's pick this up later and do another video discussing that. How about that? Anyway, if you like my videos, subscribe, like the video, and if you really like my videos, consider supporting me on Patreon like the people you're seeing on the screen. They and everybody else who supports me through Patreon or PayPal are very much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.